Hi, Gus. My name's David. I have a slightly unusual landscaping project. Shoot. I want to build a small, decorative jail cell on my front lawn. Silence. Then, a low chuckle rumbled through the phone. A what now? A jail cell? Like bars, bench, the whole shebang? Exactly. Decorative, of course. Historically inspired? Old West aesthetic? Ha! Son, last year I built a doghouse shaped like the Taj Mahal for some poodle pamperer. A little jail cell? Hell, why not? Keeps things interesting. Need a locking mechanism? My heart leaped. Someone who got it. Or at least someone who didn't immediately hang up. Let's call it a secure latching system for wind resistance. Gus laughed outright. Right, wind resistance. I like your style, kid. I'll swing by tomorrow afternoon, take a look at the site, see your blueprints. This ought to be good. It all started, as these things often do, on a Saturday morning. The sun is shining, the birds are singing, probably mocking me in retrospect, and I'm admiring my handiwork. My lawn. Not just a lawn, mind you. The lawn. Meticulously edged, perfectly striped, greener than envy itself. And my petunias? Oh, glorious cascades of purple and white, radiating pure, unadulterated floral joy. I take pride in my little patch of suburban paradise. Sue me. Then she appears. Brenda, my neighbor. Clad in something violently floral that clashed spectacularly with my petunias, dragging behind her the furry menace known formally as Sir Reginald Fluffenbutt III, but known to my lawn simply as the Defiler. And where does Sir Reginald choose to conduct his morning constitutional? Not on the perfectly acceptable patch of municipal dirt 3 feet away. Not on Brenda's own patchy excuse for a yard. Oh no, right, on my petunias. My award-winning, lovingly nurtured petunias. The steam didn't just come out of my ears. I think it visibly warped the air around my head. This wasn't an isolated incident. This wasn't a misstep. This was like the 60th time this month. Minimum. Brenda! My voice came out tighter than a banjo string. Seriously, again? We talked about this. She looked up, blinking owlishly, as if genuinely surprised to see me standing there, vibrating with barely suppressed rage. Oh, hello, David. Lovely morning. She beamed, completely oblivious. Sir Reginald just loves this spot. It's the morning sun, you know. Very good for his digestion. I stared at the small, steaming pile marring my floral masterpiece. My petunias don't appreciate his digestion. There's a dog park 2 blocks away. There's your lawn. There's literally anywhere else on planet Earth. Brenda waved a dismissive hand. Sir Reginald yapping in agreement. Oh, don't be such a grump, David. It's just nature. A little fertilizer never hurt anyone. She tugged Sir Reginald along, leaving me staring at the violation. Nature, fertilizer? Lady, that wasn't fertilizer. That was a declaration of war. As I fetched the hose and the special cleaning spray, muttering darkly about the specific circle of hell reserved for inconsiderate dog owners, I knew something had to change. This wasn't just about petunias anymore. It was about boundaries. Respect. The fundamental right to not have your lawn treated like a public restroom by a creature whose main personality trait was shedding. Later that day, stewing on my couch, nursing a decidedly strong coffee, I mentally cataloged the Brenda campaign. It had been a long and fruitless war. Phase 1, polite conversation, futile, met with blank stares and comments about Sir Reginald's sensitive paws only liking my specific species of grass. Phase 2, firm conversation, counterproductive, resulted in accusations of being unneighborly and obsessed with grass. Guilty on the second count, maybe. Phase 3, small signs. Please keep off grass, no dogs allowed. Vanished overnight. Reappeared once mysteriously bent into a passable origami swan on my doorstep. Creepy. Phase 4, considering offense. Shot down. Apparently, Brenda enjoyed the unobstructed view of my lawn, the one she was actively destroying. And the HOA had some arcane rule about fence heights that made anything effective impossible without triggering World War III on the Homeowner Association Facebook group. Phase 5. Passive-aggressive lawn ornaments. A strategically placed gnome giving a stern look. Found wearing a tiny hat knitted in Brenda's favorite shade of puce. Nothing worked. It was like reasoning with a particularly stubborn, badly dressed wall that occasionally barked. I needed something more definitive, something that screamed boundary louder than words ever could. My eyes drifted across the room, landing on the TV. Some documentary about Alcatraz was on. Cold, imposing bars, clear lines, no ambiguity. And then it hit me. An idea so audacious, so ludicrous, so perfect. It sent a jolt through my coffee-fueled system. What if the boundary wasn't just a suggestion? What if it was an enclosure? Not a fence she could complain about blocking her view, but something else. Something targeted, something historically inspired. A jail cell. Right there, on the lawn. Specifically, around the patch Sir Reginald found so appealing. The thought was insane, utterly, certifiably bonkers. I laughed out loud. Then I stopped laughing. Because the more I thought about it, the more sense it made in its own twisted, beautiful logic. It wasn't a fence. It wasn't directly hostile. Okay, maybe a little. It was structural deterrence. Right, I muttered, a slow, dangerous grin spreading across my face. Diplomacy has failed. Time for architecture. That night, fueled by righteous indignation and several more cups of coffee, I dove into the rabbit hole of lawn structures and zoning laws. My search history became a thing of beauty, a testament to suburban desperation. Can I build jail on lawn legally USA? Decorative prison cell kits. Surprisingly, not really a thing. Missed market opportunity? Minimum square footage accessory structure no permit, my town. Historical replica building codes. How thick do bars need to be to look intimidating but not violate code? Old West jailhouse aesthetic lawn art. I discovered a glorious loophole. In my town, accessory structures under a certain square footage didn't require a permit, especially if they were deemed decorative and didn't have a permanent foundation. Decorative. Perfect! Now, I couldn't actually imprison Brenda. Unlawful detainment, false imprisonment, assault. The legal terms swam menacingly in my head. No. This had to be purely symbolic. A decorative historical replica. A conversation piece. Maybe with a gate. A gate that just happened to swing shut easily. And latch. For, wind resistance. I started sketching on napkins, fueled by visions of Clint Eastwood movies and my own petty vengeance. It needed bars, obviously. Thick enough to look serious, but spaced widely enough that Sir Reginald couldn't actually get stuck. A simple, flat roof, maybe corrugated tin for that authentic rustic feel. A wooden bench inside? Essential for contemplating one's trespasses. Dimensions? Maybe 6 feet by 6 feet? Just big enough to encompass the preferred potty spot, plus room for one disgruntled neighbor and her fluffball accomplice. I christened the design the Brenda Memorial Trespassing Deterrent and Historical Conversation Piece. Okay, maybe just the cell for short. The next morning, armed with my napkin sketches and a terrifying amount of unwarranted confidence, I started calling contractors. This, my friends, was where the real fun began. Call #1, Acme Fencing Inc. Hi, yes, I'm looking for a quote on a small enclosure? Sure thing, buddy. What kind of fence? Chain link, wood panel, picket? Actually, it's more bars. Like vertical steel bars, forming a sort of cube? A cage? On your lawn? What are you trying to keep in or out? Let's just say I'm discouraging persistent neighborhood walkers with specific habits. Right. I think you need a different specialist. We do fences, not whatever that is. Click. Call #2. Ironclad Metal Fabricators. Ironclad, Pete speaking. Hi, Pete. I need a quote for some custom metal work, specifically jail bars. Jail bars? Sure, we do bars. Security installations? Window guards? No, more freestanding. On a lawn, decorative. There was a pause. I could hear gears grinding over the phone. Decorative jail bars? On a lawn? Is this for like a movie set? Halloween? Sort of a long-running domestic drama, actually. Another pause. Longer this time. Okay, send me the specs. Dimensions, gauge steel you're thinking? Gotta say, weirdest request this week, and it's only Monday. Pete sounded intrigued, but wary. Progress? Call #3. Gus's Handyman Services. If it's broke or crazy, call Gus. His actual slogan. I swear. An older, gravelly voice answered. Gus here. Hi, Gus. My name's David. I have a slightly unusual landscaping project. Shoot. I want to build a small, decorative jail cell on my front lawn. Silence. Then, a low chuckle rumbled through the phone. A what now? A jail cell? Like bars, bench, the whole shebang? Exactly. Decorative, of course. Historically inspired. Old West aesthetic. Ha! Son, last year I built a doghouse shaped like the Taj Mahal for some poodle pamperer. A little jail cell? Hell, why not? Keeps things interesting. Need a locking mechanism? My heart leapt. Someone who got it. Or at least someone who didn't immediately hang up. Let's call it a secure latching system. For wind resistance. Gus laughed outright. Right. Wind resistance. I like your style, kid. I'll swing by tomorrow afternoon, take a look at the site, see your blueprints. This ought to be good. I hung up, giddy with a mixture of triumph and sheer terror. Gus was in. The cell was happening. Oh God, I thought, staring blankly at my pristine lawn. I'm actually doing this. This is either genius or the fastest way to get myself committed. Gus arrived the next afternoon, true to his word. He was exactly as I'd pictured. Grizzled, overalls, measuring tape hooked to his belt, eyes twinkling with the amusement of a man who's seen far stranger things than a suburban lawn jail. He looked at my napkin sketch, nodded slowly, kicked the turf where the cell was planned, and declared, Yep, we can do this. Won't even be the weirdest thing I build this month. Construction began the following Monday. Gus and his equally unfazed helper, a quiet young guy named Leo, started measuring, marking out the 6x6 footprint, and digging shallow holes for the corner posts. Nothing major, just enough to anchor it. Decorative, remember? Neighbors started noticing almost immediately. Mrs. Henderson from across the street paused her power walking, squinting. Mr. Gable next door peered over his hedge, bewildered. Whispers started, like breezes rustling through the HOA grapevine. You sure about this spot, Dave? Gus asked, sinking a post. Right near the sidewalk, prime viewing? Maximum visibility, Gus, I replied, trying to sound confident. It's all about the deterrent factor, a clear statement. Gus just shook his head, a grin playing on his lips. Your funeral, pal, or hers. Naturally, Brenda chose that moment for her daily constitutional with Sir Reginald. She stopped dead in her tracks, her eyes narrowing at the posts and disturbed earth. David, what on earth is that monstrosity going to be? She demanded, hands on her hips. Oh, just a little landscaping project, Brenda, I chirped, maybe a little too cheerfully, adding some historical charm, very rustic. It looks like foundations. Are you building something? Think of it, I said, gesturing vaguely, as a robust trellis for very, very aggressive climbing vines that require significant support. Brenda looked profoundly suspicious, but ultimately lacked the imagination to grasp the true horror unfolding. Well, it's going to be hideous, she sniffed, pulling Sir Reginald away from sniffing Gus's toolbox. The HOA will hear about this. Let them come, I thought, watching her retreating floral print back. My masterpiece is underway. The real fun started when the bars went up. Gus and Leo efficiently welded and bolted the prefabricated steel bars into place. One section, then two, then the sides. It rapidly transitioned from abstract posts to unmistakably a jail cell. That's when the first patrol car appeared. Cruising slowly down the street, it stopped directly in front of my house. 2 officers got out. One looked young, maybe fresh out of the academy, all spit polish and earnestness. The other looked like he'd seen everything twice and was profoundly tired of it all. Let's call them Officer Bright Eyes and Officer Seen It All. Sir? Officer Bright Eyes began, gesturing towards the structure. Can we ask what exactly you're building here? I put on my most innocent, helpful citizen face. Just a decorative structure, officers. Adding some unique character to the neighborhood, you know? Officer Seen It All surveyed the bars, the small footprint, my overly enthusiastic expression. Character, he drawled, scratching his chin. Looks like you're expecting the Dalton gang to stop by for tea. More like discouraging unwanted pedestrian traffic on my award-winning petunias, I explained smoothly. It's a historically inspired conversation piece, fully compliant with local ordinances regarding non-permitted accessory structures. I even had my printouts ready, highlighting the square footage loophole. Officer Bright Eyes frowned, looking unsure. Is it permitted? Does it meet safety codes? Absolutely, I beamed, perhaps a touch too brightly. Under the size threshold for requiring a permit, maintains required property line setbacks. Purely decorative. Art, really. Officer Seen It All sighed, a sound heavy with the weight of countless neighborhood disputes. Look, pal, it's your property, fine. Legally, maybe you're in a gray area we don't want to wade into right now, but it looks like a jail cell. If this thing causes problems, or if, you know, he lowered his voice slightly, you put someone in it. Heavens no, officer, I gasped, clutching my metaphorical pearls. That would be unlawful. It's just art. Provocative, perhaps. Challenging preconceived notions of public and private space, but art. Officer Bright Eyes still looked skeptical. Officer Seen It All just looked weary. Right. Art, he said, exchanging a look with his partner. Just keep it civil, okay? Keep the peace. They got back in their car, radios squawking softly, and drove away, shaking their heads. Phase 1 of official interaction. Successful bewilderment achieved, I mentally noted. They can't stop me. Yet. By the end of the week, the cell was complete. Gus had installed a simple wooden bench inside, a slightly sloped corrugated tin roof, and the pièce de résistance, a barred gate on sturdy hinges. All that remained was the wind-resistant latch. Gus packed up his tools, giving the structure a final appraising look. Well, she's built, solid as a rock. Or, you know, as solid as a decorative lawn jail needs to be. He winked. Just got to install that latch tomorrow. Tomorrow, Gus, I agreed, rubbing my hands together. Let the anticipation build. Let the symbolism sink in. You're enjoying this way too much, Dave. After months of Sir Reginald's unwelcome contributions to my ecosystem, you bet your sweet bippy I am. As Gus drove off, Brenda stormed across her lawn towards mine, waving a piece of paper. She'd clearly been waiting for him to leave. "David, I've spoken to the HOA president. This monstrosity is clearly against Regulation 7, subsection B, unsightly structures." "Really, Brenda?" I asked innocently. "I find it quite aesthetically pleasing, very minimalist, and is it more unsightly than, say, random piles of dog do? It's an eyesore, it's threatening. I feel unsafe walking past it." "Brenda, it's literally just some metal bars on my lawn, 20 feet from the sidewalk. How is that threatening? Are you planning on committing a crime you think you'll be incarcerated for right here?" "I'm lodging a formal complaint. With the city. You'll be hearing from my lawyer. This isn't over." She spun on her heel and marched back to her house, radiating righteous fury. "Lawyer?" I thought, a thrill running through me. "Ooh, she's escalating faster than expected. Excellent. Bring it on." The cell stood silent and waiting on the lawn, gleaming faintly in the afternoon sun. The next morning arrived, bright and pregnant with possibility. Stage set, actors, well, one unwitting actor, presumably following her usual script. I was out early, kneeling by the petunias, pretending to weed with intense focus. But my eyes kept flicking towards the cell, where Gus had installed the final component before heading off to his next weird job, the wind-resistant latch. It was a simple hook and eyelet thing, really. Easy to open from either side, unless perhaps one was flustered or terminally entitled. I'd also taken the liberty of sprinkling a tiny, almost invisible amount of extra-potent dog-attracting fertilizer inside the cell's perimeter, near the back bench. Just a little olfactory encouragement. "Okay, Dave," I coached myself. "Stay cool. You're just a guy, gardening near his provocative art installation. Nothing to see here." My heart was hammering like a woodpecker on speed. Will she see the giant, obvious jail cell and finally detour? Or is her bubble of oblivious entitlement strong enough to propel her directly into the designated conversation area? Right on schedule, like a cuckoo clock of annoyance, Brenda appeared at the end of the block, Sir Reginald trotting ahead, leash taut. She was on her phone, gesticulating wildly as she walked, probably dictating her formal complaint to the poor soul on the other end. She wasn't even looking where she was going. Sir Reginald, however, was looking, or rather, sniffing. His nose twitched. His tail gave a tentative wag. He caught the scent of my high-octane fertilizer special. He tugged Brenda purposefully off the sidewalk, making a beeline for the back of the cell, Brenda still deep in her phone conversation. Utter disregard for neighborhood aesthetics, psychological distress. Stumbled after him, right through the open gate. Showtime. With the stealth of a suburban ninja, or maybe just an awkward dude pretending to find a particularly stubborn weed, I accidentally stumbled near the gatepost just as Brenda was pulled fully inside by Sir Reginald, who was now ecstatically investigating the scented patch near the bench. My hand brushed the gate. It swung shut with a soft thunk. And with a deft flick of my wrist, honed by years of latching garden sheds, I dropped the simple metal hook into the eyelet. Click. The sound, though small, seemed to echo in the sudden silence. Brenda finally ended her call, turning. "David?" she said, frowning. "What was that noise? Did you just close this gate?" I stood up, brushing dirt from my knees, adopting an expression of mild surprise. "Close it? Goodness no, Brenda. Must have been the breeze. It's just a simple latch, you know, for the wind." I gestured vaguely. "Seems you and Sir Reginald have wandered into my new decorative feature. Having a good look." Her eyes widened as she registered the closed gate, the bars surrounding her. She rattled the gate. The simple hook held firm. "Let me out!" she shrieked, dropping the phone. "This is ridiculous! You can't do this! Open this right now!" "I didn't do anything," I protested, holding my hands up innocently. You're the one standing squarely inside my property, inside my historically inspired conversation piece. Technically, I added, unable to resist. You're trespassing. Again? Brenda's face went from confused pink to furious crimson. I'm calling the police! She screamed, fumbling for her dropped phone. This is assault, kidnapping, false imprisonment. Kidnapping? I thought, grimacing slightly. Little dramatic, Brenda, even for you. More like aesthetically guided boundary enforcement with a touch of malicious compliance. Neighbors' curtains twitched. Mrs. Henderson paused her power walk again, mouth agape. Mr. Gable was now fully visible over his hedge, holding garden shears like a bewildered spectator at a Roman circus. Within minutes, the familiar patrol car screeched, okay, maybe just pulled up briskly, to the curb. Officers Bright Eyes and Seen It All emerged. This time, Officer Seen It All's face was set in lines of profound resignation, like a man staring into the abyss of human stupidity. Okay, Dave, he sighed, his voice dangerously calm. What did we discuss about keeping things civil? Officers! Thank God! Brenda shrieked from inside the cell, rattling the gate for emphasis. He trapped me! He locked me in his cage! Arrest him! I spread my hands wide. Trapped? Officer, please. It's a simple hook latch, easily opened from the inside, as you can see. Brenda, in her panic, was yanking the gate futilely instead of lifting the hook. She walked right in while trespassing on my lawn. Again, I was merely observing my property and ensuring the wind wouldn't damage my art installation. Officer Bright Eyes approached the gate cautiously. Ma'am, can you try lifting the hook? Just lift it up. Brenda fumbled with it, her fingers slipping. It's stuck. He rigged it. Officer Seen It All fixed me with a stare that could curdle milk. Dave, you built a jail cell on your front lawn, and now your neighbor is, for all intents and purposes, inside it. You gotta see how this looks from our perspective. I see a clear physical demonstration of property lines, officer, I countered, trying to keep my voice level. And a blatant disregard for them. The structure is merely highlighting the ongoing issue in a tangible way. Finally, with a frustrated cry, Brenda managed to lift the hook. The gate swung open and she practically exploded out of the cell, face flushed, hair askew. Sir Reginald barked triumphantly from behind her legs. He's insane, she sputtered, pointing a trembling finger at me. He planned this. It's harassment. I want to press charges. Officer Bright Eyes looked uncertainly between us. Charges for what exactly, ma'am? Building a weird structure? Questionable landscaping taste? Officer Seen It All stepped forward, holding up a hand to forestall further shouting. All right, enough, both of you! His voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the tension. Ma'am, he said to Brenda, you were trespassing, again. We have notes about previous calls regarding your dog on Mr. Gable's property. Her mouth snapped shut. He turned to me. And you, Dave? This? This is ridiculous. Provocative nonsense. You're deliberately antagonizing her and, frankly, creating a public spectacle. He gestured around at the gawking neighbors. You're both acting like 5-year-olds fighting over a sandbox. But my petunias are safe? I asked, perhaps ill-advisedly. Officer Seen It All pinched the bridge of his nose, squeezing his eyes shut for a moment. This is bordering on harassment, Dave, from both sides, and creating a public nuisance. Take it down. Dismantle it, I gasped, genuinely shocked now. But it's art. It's structurally sound. It's practically a local landmark already. Make him tear it down, Brenda demanded shrilly, and fine him. Fine him for ugliness. Nobody is getting fined right now. Officer Seen It All stated flatly. But consider this an official warning. To both of you. Ma'am, keep yourself and your dog off his property. Period. Dave, get rid of the cage. Now. Before the city does get involved with code enforcement over attractive nuisances or whatever they can find. Are we clear? The air crackled with unresolved fury. But the cops weren't arresting anyone. They just looked utterly, profoundly done with the whole situation. They gave us both one last hard look, got back in their car, and drove off, leaving Brenda and me staring daggers at each other across the lawn, the empty cell standing between us like a monument to our mutual absurdity. The cops left. A tense, awkward silence descended, broken only by Sir Reginald's intermittent yapping. The neighbors, sensing the main act was over, slowly retreated behind their curtains and hedges. It was just me, Brenda, and the cell. Brenda glared at me, opened her mouth as if to unleash another tirade, then seemed to think better of it. Perhaps Officer Seen It All's warning about previous trespassing calls had actually penetrated her skull. With a final, venomous look, she yanked Sir Reginald's leash and stormed back to her own house, pointedly walking on the sidewalk the entire way. Small victories. Now, what to do about the cell? The cops said dismantle it. The HOA was undoubtedly sharpening its pitchforks. My lawyer, whom I'd preemptively put on retainer the moment I ordered the steel, advised strategic de-escalation. But dismantle my masterpiece, my symbol of defiance, my beautifully petty solution? It felt wrong. It felt like letting Brenda win. So I compromised, in the most Dave way possible. The next weekend, I began the dismantling, very slowly, very deliberately. I started by taking the roof off. Then, one bar at a time. Each clang of metal on metal seemed to echo through the quiet street. I'd work for an hour, then take a long water break sitting on my porch, admiring the remaining structure. Brenda watched from her window, looking smug initially. But as the process dragged on, day after day, with the cell diminishing at a glacial pace, her smugness seemed to fade, replaced by irritation. Exactly as planned. By the time I got down to the last few bars forming the corners, I had another stroke of artistic inspiration. Instead of removing them entirely, I repurposed them. Gus, bless his enabling heart, came back for an hour. "Just finishing the job, Dave," he'd chuckled. We cut the bars into varying lengths. We bent some. We welded them together at odd angles, incorporating the bench and the remaining corner posts. What stood there now wasn't a jail cell, no sir. It was modern art. Hideous, vaguely menacing, tetanus hazard-looking modern art, titled, according to a small, professionally made plaque I hammered into the ground beside it, Ode to Boundaries, Steel, Reclaimed Materials, Neighborly Friction. It was arguably uglier and more conspicuous than the cell had ever been. But it wasn't a jail. The HOA couldn't technically fault it under the unsightly structures clause, any more than they could fault Mrs. Henderson's collection of 50 garden gnomes. The cops certainly weren't coming back for this. Life after the lawn jail and subsequent sculpture settled into a new, weird normal. Brenda, perhaps traumatized by her brief incarceration, or maybe just terrified of my artistic sensibilities, now gives my entire property line a berth so wide she practically walks in the street. Sir Reginald seems to have developed a nervous bladder whenever he passes my yard. He whimpers and pulls Brenda away. Mission accomplished, albeit bizarrely. I became Jail Cell Dave to some neighbors, Sculpture Guy to others. Some think I'm eccentric. Some think I'm a jerk. Some, like Gus, who occasionally stops by to admire our handiwork, think I'm hilarious. Was building a jail cell on my lawn the most mature, reasonable solution? Absolutely not. Let's be real, it was certifiably insane. Was it effective? Disturbingly, yes. Did it inadvertently launch my career as a creator of questionable lawn sculptures? Apparently so. Would I do it again? Well, let's just say I've been looking into miniature moats recently. You know, purely for decorative water features. One has to keep exploring artistic boundaries, right? Especially when your neighbor just got a new, even yappier puppy.